Allow me to share with you a tale of math and physics, explaining why you and I are the way we are. Of course, you have to begin with the simple premise that all matter is an algorithm of molecules, which are an algorithm of atoms, which are an algorithm of particles, which are essentially an algorithm of various energies interacting with each other. But let's start with the subatomic particles: proton, neutron, electron. There's a negative, a positive, and a neutral. The neutral and the positive sit in the nucleus, while the negative revolves around the outside. So right there, they all have different mass, and their charge is dictated by spin. Let me back up a second. Mass is dictated by vibration. The slower something vibrates, the more mass it has. So essentially, just the three subatomic particles are defined by vibration and spin. There you already have a math problem. 2 factors per particle in the atom. So what happens after that? Well, let's get a little more into that. But before I do, let me state this. Everything from here on out is derived from my own mind, my own personal deduction and analysis of relationships in reality. I frankly have an aversion to books. I feel like it's cheating to read books. If you can't figure it out for yourself, you don't need to know it. But I'm exceptionally intelligent compared to the other 99% of people around me. So everything from here on out is from here, not from books, not from this internet, just from up here. Okay, so you have the proton's positive, the electron's negative, the neutron has no charge. Or does it? Well, consider what I said about vibration equals mass. The faster you vibrate, the less mass you have. And spin dictates charge. So, going off that, the proton, for the sake of argument, we'll say it spins clockwise on its axis, and that's what gives it positive charge. The electron then would spin counterclockwise on its axis, giving it a negative charge. So does that mean the neutron has no spin? Before we decide on that, let's consider the neutron's relationship to the proton and electron. I don't know if you ever played with magnets, but 2 negatives repel each other, 2 positives repel each other. Positive and negative go attract each other. So going off that notion alone, the proton's positive, the electron's negative, but the electron orbits the nucleus instead of slamming into the proton. Well, then there must be a counterbalance there, right? So what would subsequently attract the positive proton to the nucleus and deflect the negative electron from the nucleus? Well, it would have to be a negative charge. And therefore I argue that the neutron has the greatest mass and the slowest spin. Here's why. The greater the mass, the less spin you have to create a greater charge. The power of the charge is dictated in the rate of vibration or density and the rate of spin. So subsequently, if you have, say, 2 spin, 3 mass, you get a total of 6 charge. But if you have 1 spin and 6 mass, you still have a 6 charge. So, going with that math, we'll argue that the neutron has the lowest frequency or highest density of the subatomic particles, and a negligible spin so that it appears to have no charge at all. But because of its mass times its spin, it creates a negative charge capable of, ready, attracting the positive proton and repelling the negative electron so as to create a neutron-proton nucleus and an orbiting electron. And of course, you could further argue that the electron has the highest vibration or the least density, which allows it to orbit the nucleus as well. Because, if something gets in your orbit that's bigger than you, it's going to slam into you. Our moon is lighter than our planet. We're smaller than our sun, so forth and so on. So already you have a mathematical equation to dictate the existence and behavior of a single particle, a single atom. So then mathematically, a molecule, which is a combination of atoms, would have a more complex mathematical equation. And then however those molecules combine to create reality, as you see, as you scale up more and more and more, we'll use the human body, atoms make molecules, molecules make cells, cells make tissue, tissue creates organs, skin, eyes, liver, bones, bone marrow. And then those tissue sets combined make an entire body. So essentially, the mythical aura of the human being is nothing more than the electromagnetic field manifested by the mathematical relationship of all the atoms in the human body. Ooh. Chew on that one for a while, buddy. So, when you break down the body mathematically, like that, you would essentially be able to argue that from a mathematical standpoint, the more commonalities two human beings have, say, genetically, those mathematical similarities would create frequency resonance, boosting each other, creating a greater sense of well-being, ease, and comfort in the presence of that individual. Remember from, I think I was in 9th grade when I learned it, resonance and dissonance. Resonance is when two waves sync up and they both make each other more powerful, and dissonance is when they, scramble each other. Kind of like a radio. Sorry about that, shifting. The idea of, consider it that way. When you're tuning the FM radio, right, you get away from a strong frequency and things get fuzzy and fall apart, right? But as soon as you tune into that specific numeric frequency, some awesome, really clear, nice, something to listen to. Consider that for the human body. I have a certain genetic code. You have a certain genetic code. Now, I'm just going to stick to the science here. I'm not going to run around like a chicken with my head cut off addressing all your, well, what about this? What about this? What about this? What about this? I'm not your babysitter. Think it through yourself, figure it out yourself. In fact, that's my task for you. If you have any questions, consider it from the perspective I've already granted you and see if you can figure out a reasonable explanation yourself. So, common mathematical makeups in the human structure create resonance between two humans. The more different those genetic makeups are, the more dissonance it creates. Very briefly, I just described why we have racism and culture. I don't know about you, but I've noticed that in my time on this planet, two black people who've never met each other before in their lives talk to each other as if they grew up in the same room together. However, every culture, every genetic family, if you will, has a very strong aversion to those who are not like it, and a very strong gravitation towards those that are like them. White, black, Hispanic, Islam, Chinese, Indian, whatever you are, those you're most genetically similar to are the ones you resonate with the most, and that resonance balances each of you out. It actually physiologically causes the human form to decompress, go into a greater state of calm and ease, and you actually function on a higher level when you're in the company of those you genetically resonate with. I feel I've just, mathematically described why we have racism. But that's just me. But the genetic relationships, if you will. I've seen this with women that get, with teen mothers. They're often raised by single mothers. And when that happens, the girl does not have her genetic father around to bond to. And when you're an infant, that genetic bond is the basis for your lifelong basis for comfort in the company of other people. Quite literally, even though the infant does not have a conscious mind, it is aware that that parent it's with is not its genetic coupling. And so that person will go the rest of their life not being able to bond particularly well with others because it never had that base genetic bond to begin with. So what happens to, say, a female that grows up without her genetic father? She never feels that genetic connection. What up, Taryn? Nice to see you. I've been rambling on about breaking the body down as mathematics. So yeah, the girl that grows up without a father never has that genetic relationship. She feels that emptiness. So subconsciously, when she becomes fertile, the males start giving her attention. And so this is the attention she didn't get from her father. So even though it's not conscious, somewhere in her subconscious, her body realizes that, hey, one of these men that's giving me attention, if I get knocked up by him, it will trigger his fatherly instincts, and I'll get the father I never had. Also, going back to what I said about genetic families, these girls that get knocked up as teenagers, more often than not, get knocked up by men who genetically resemble their fathers. It's really very simple when you break it down as math. How's the weather up there, Taryn? We finally got over our last cold spell for a while. It doesn't get below 60 at night now, and it gets like 80 every day now. There's something else I wanted to talk about. God damn it. Right on. Just kind of cold and dry, not real wet or windy. Because you guys get that lake effect snow, right? That shit's harsh. We out in South Dakota up there, we just get that really dry snow that's like powdered sugar coming down. It's never really damp. Oh yeah, that's too cold for snow. But cold enough you can still breathe it, or warm enough you can still breathe it. Uh-oh. What was it that cheeseburger you left to get last night? I'm leaving to go get a burger and fries. Okay, good luck. Comes back the next day. I'm sick as a dog. Uh-oh. Oh, but yeah, back to the thing about Oh, hey, Critter. I didn't realize that was you. Yeah, I just got here. I was breaking down the human anatomy mathematically. In fact, let me start with the basis of that again, just to catch you up. All matter is made of atoms, right? And atoms are made of protons, neutrons, and electrons. Yes, it's delicious. With some fava beans and a little Chianti. I might have done that way too well. But okay, so you have the nucleus that has the proton and the neutron, and you have the electron. So the proton's positive, the neutron has no charge, or does it? And the electron is negative. Well, they all have a different mass and they have a different spin. Spin dictates charge and vibration dictates mass. So there you have two mathematical factors for every atomic particle: vibration and spin. For the sake of this argument, we'll say the proton spins clockwise on its axis, giving it a positive charge. And the electron spins counterclockwise, giving it a negative charge. But the neutron has no charge, so it doesn't spin, right? That's arguable, and I'll get to that. Because, see, basic magnets we used in like 8th grade showed us that negative repels negative, positive repels positive, but opposite charges attract. So, the proton is positive, the electron's negative. Why aren't they slamming into each other? There's got to be a counterbalance there, right? So the neutron would have to have a negative charge to repel the electron. But a very negligible charge, because the power of the charge is based on vibration times spin. So if the neutron's exceptionally heavy, it can have a very negligible spin and still have a stronger charge. Therefore, the electron has the fastest vibration of the three particles. The neutron has the slowest vibration, but the neutron also has the slowest spin, but still gives it a greater charge. So it actually has a negative charge, attracting the proton and repelling the electron. Mind you, this is all shit that I've conjured through my own personal analysis and running it around in my brain. I feel like reading books or cheating. I never read books all the years I went to school. I just organically understood everything. So if you've read books that tell you otherwise, great. But these are the things I think about. But like my page says, random meanderings of an idle mind. So you have, what is it? Two mathematical factors in every subatomic particle. So every atom is an algorithm of those factors, and every molecule is then a greater algorithm, and so forth and so on. So the body at that rate, if you go that way and say that, now mind you, I haven't thought this through fully, this is just a rough analogy. If you decided those two factors of each subatomic particle were like the bits in a computer program, bits are either on or off. They either have, so that would dictate, whatever, vibration or spin, one or the other. And so an atom would be equivalent to a character. A line of code would be equivalent to a molecule. And lines of code would be akin to the chains of molecules that create the body. Oh, dude, I've used that one so many times, Taryn, the algorithm. How do mathematicians dance? With algorithm.
This is Duncan Radio. America runs on Duncan.
This is true, Cave. That's why I wanted you in on this. This is true. On mathematical paper, however, but right. So if you, going back to what I was saying before Taryn got here, if you consider the body as a giant math problem, the quote unquote aura that people talk about you give off is just your overall electromagnetic signature. Indeed. In fact, the other night I was looking for a 3D computer modeling of atoms. Oh yeah, fractals are awesome too. I did happen to read a book on that years after I pondered the concept. It's a book by Greg Braden where he talks about everything in reality is a reflection of itself, bigger and smaller, as above, so below. It's really kind of a interesting book if you've never pondered that reality yourself. But so our genes, our DNA, would give off a certain signal, depending on what that makeup is. And roughly, for me, that validates the cultural and racial bias in the world. Because if you notice, people of common DNA or common genetics are more comfortable around each other than people who aren't common to their genetics. Exactly, Critter. That's why I wanted you around for this. Exactly. Yep. And so, I mean, pick your culture, pick your bloodline. I personally, for no other reason than that genetic dissonance, I'm not particularly at ease around black people. Not because they're fear-inspiring, not because they're any different than any other human in their behavior, but because their genetic frequency is more dissonant with mine than resonant. However, total strangers that come through this area, as tourists or whatever, that speak fluent German or Swede, just hearing them talk puts my entire system at ease. Because I realize that, or subconsciously anyway, that their genetics are more similar to mine, and so we resonate and balance each other out. You vaguely remember the difference between resonance and dissonance from like 8th grade? Or like dissonance is where two waves disrupt each other. Resonance is where they flow with each other and make each other stronger. I mean, there's many other reasons people are drawn to other people, but I don't know. I was just thinking about that one day living in the part of Tampa where everyone is so divergent according to their genetic lineage. Exactly, Taryn. Which coincidentally, I was thinking about that the other night. Every riff I ever wrote when I played my bass guitar, I wrote it in numbers. It would be interesting to build a graph with that and 3D model it and see how it comes out. Be actually interesting to do that with just about any song. Maybe Metallica's Master of Puppets. See what kind of 3D graphing model you can build out of mixing the guitars and the bass riffs as numbers. And then I was telling Taryn the genetic resonance thing. Right, Critter. However, genes are an adaptation to experience. So genes turn on and off according to the experiences you have. This is why, like, if you go back, a couple thousand years, most black Africans came from either equatorial or sub-equatorial regions and had lived there hundreds of thousands of years. So they're used to their genetic structure, their body is used to warm weather. But about 3 generations of living way up north in, like, Michigan, we'll say, their genes have shifted so that the children they give birth to are more comfortable in the cold climate than the warm climate. Not 100%, but way more than their, 3 generations prior, because of that consistent experience causing the genes to shift. Which is what I was telling Taryn, why right. That always helps to, breed with someone who has the genes that are akin to cold weather to help your children adapt to it. But when Taryn got on, I was in the middle of talking about why teenage mothers become teenage mothers. Because as an infant, you have no conscious mind. You're just all subconscious and all instinct. And so the basis of that human being's ability to feel safe in one's person and around others and connect with others comes from their genetic connection and close relationship to the parents during infancy. So when the father's not there, the girl never develops the comfort and ease with any male because her genetic lineage isn't there to connect to. So she goes on with this kind of emptiness inside her. So when she hits puberty, she notices that, wow, men are actually paying attention to her like her father should have. Subconsciously, she figures out if she has a baby with one of them, it'll kick in their daddy instincts and she'll have the dad she never had. And statistically, teenage mothers breed with men that are more genetically similar to their fathers. Why? Because they didn't get that genetic bonding as an infant. So they seek it out as a teenager. Did you guys watch Zangotti's latest video? Something about Article 13, and he went on some tangent about whether or not you use YouTube as your primary source of income. He said something about if demonetization means censoring to you, it's clear you're using YouTube as your primary source of income. He's like, I don't care if they censor me. I'm not here for the money. But I brought up, because what was he talking about? He was talking about Charles Manson and how he would have liked to have sat down with that guy and had a conversation. He's like, he probably has some really out there ideas that would be really interesting to hear. And all right, hold on. I'm going to try to catch up on the. Yeah, prejudices are natural. To try to, it, it's very much life is kind of one of those games of how do you manage the carnality of the human body and all its needs with spirit, the eternal consciousness that uses the body. It can be interesting sometimes. And Taryn says, I've noticed funerals for men tend to be more mournful. Well, I mean, I suppose you could use the simple explanation that throughout history, men have been the breadwinners and the protectors and the resource providers. So losing the men in the family is loss of a resource provider, and that freaks everybody out, especially the women who, aren't real great at those things. Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot. You guys can hear this terrible Dunkin' Donuts radio. Oh, who's the broad that does that really bad song about I've loved you for 1,000 years and I'll love you for 1,000 more? Every time I hear that song, I always picture an old woman singing those lyrics to her dying husband. Yeah, I don't know. After I had during the period in my life where I had those, yeah, Cave Critter said something about philosophy. After I had those incidents of during the time I had those incidents of astral projection, I found myself writing a lot of philosophy. I think I still have all those notebooks somewhere. In fact, over the years, I've had actual philosophy students end up having conversations with me, like meet them at a coffee shop or something. They're like, I'll strike up a conversation with them. And after about the third time, they ask, oh my God, where did you read that? And I plainly look at them and go, I didn't read it. I derived it from observable reality and personal analysis. They finally just like give up and they're like, oh shit, I'm going to school for philosophy. And this guy like figures it out himself. Okay, I feel bad now. I'm walking away. Cave Critter, yes, they are very awful songs. Right? Love you for 1,000 years? Well, maybe if you count cockroach years, then that would equal a human lifetime. But I mean, one of my most recent videos said, what's not forever? Her love? Like, come on, woman, stop lying to me. They really are. And you know what, Critter, that brooch is a really... What, Taryn? Right? Yeah, yeah, that whole 3-week comment reminded me of a woman's cycle. Yep, she'll be good to you until her eggs start dropping and she needs to find Chad. And you're out of luck. But 8-9 days later, she'll be back on her knees for you because she needs resources. You're not her first choice for breeding, but hey, baby, my eggs have dropped and I'm out of the mood, so will you take me back? I tried explaining that to a guy one day. He said something about, yeah, man, once a month my girlfriend just gets horny as hell, and she's horny right now. I can't wait to get home. I go, do you understand how dangerous that is? He goes, what do you mean? I go, well, when do you get horny? So I explained to him it's when you get a full complement of reproductive cells on board and they need to be purged, right? So I explained to him, dude, she's horny because her eggs are ready to be fertilized, okay? I know it's exciting for her to be climbing all over you and wanting it, but if she's that hot for you, do not go raw dog or you will end up in a very bad way. Same thing. You're horny because you need to drop something. She's horny because she has dropped something. Cave critter, 1,000 fruit fly years. Sometimes I wonder if the women don't have, attention spans of fruit flies. Squirrel. Who is it? I think it's Undead Chronic that uses the analogy of every woman is just a squirrel trying to get a nut. I like his styling. He's got a nice, smooth, he's got his motif down. Right, Cave Critter? Drop it like it's hot. Drop it like it's hot. And speaking of other presenters, I love what DDJ said one time. I don't know if you guys caught this, but they were talking about female orgasm. And he brought up this point. He goes, as yet, scientists are unable to find the purpose for a female orgasm. Male orgasm is completely necessary for gestation. Female orgasm is not. So, if God didn't care about a woman's orgasm, why should I? Oh, dude, that just cracked me up when I heard it. I still use it. I love it. Taryn. Oh, which one of you was around when I was talking about the amygdala and the hippocampus? I've noticed since they removed that from my anatomy, my memories have faded more and more every year because, see, memories are tied to emotion. When you can't produce emotion, you tend to not have as strong a memory. So the only emotions I had were the ones stored in those memories. So the more I access them, the more I use up the stored emotion in them, to the point that some of my memories now, I question whether they are memories at all. It's like, did that ever really happen? Like, yeah, at this point, so many of my memories, I'm not even sure they ever actually happened. Just like, is that an illusion I put in my brain to cope with the reality I was actually given? And let's be honest, there's no way I can validate any of it except, some people verbally expressing similar recollections, but really can't prove anything. And I also find that my lack of fight or flight really creeps people out. Like, apparently non-reaction is the scariest thing to people. I had a Tyrone one day get in an argument with me about whether or not you should hit people, and I said in self-defense. Oh, dude, you have no idea. But this big Tyrone, he's like 6'3", 200 pounds, comes in here once in a while. And he just kept telling, we were talking to a third party, and he insisted you shouldn't hit anybody under any circumstances. Well, no, you should hit them in self-defense. And so after the third party stepped away, I tried explaining to him that me and him, because of our differing statures and health, have had to manage reality very, very differently. He's a much bigger person than me, bigger and stronger, probably always has been. So when his dad said, son, don't ever hit anybody under any circumstances, he was basically, and stop me if you don't get this reference, he was probably saying, hey, Lenny from Mice and Men, don't pet the bunnies, you'll kill them. Don't pet the bunnies under any circumstances. But me, a much smaller person, was allowed to pet the bunnies because I'm not big and strong. So he was told his whole life, because he was bigger and stronger, don't hit people under any circumstances. And that's reasonable. If he were to punch me, he'd do some serious damage. If I hit him, he's just going to look at me like, oh, what was that? So there's a different variance there. Not to mention, going back to the genetic thing, people are instinctually inclined to feel more comfortable around and acquiesce to larger, healthier people. Not obese people, but, taller, stronger, better physical specimens. So they inherently do the opposite with me. So I've had to learn to be more aggressive and assertive. He doesn't have to be, because it can become a danger. Exactly, Taryn. Yes. And he just kept getting more and more excited, and I never broke character. And by the end, he was threatening me, and I'm just sitting there looking at him. I'm like, I thought you said you shouldn't hit anybody under any circumstances. Did I hurt your feelings? And he said something just deflective. I go, really? This is about your feelings now? You know what? The dude has never tried me since. And like I said, if he would have chose to hit me, I would have ended up in a very, very bad way. But just, not breaking character and, never showing any emotion just tripped him out way too much. Right? Yeah, I had that. I finally figured out that in 8th grade, I had had enough. And we were in the locker room during gym class. And the teacher that usually did gym class also taught history. And there was a female teacher in his history class, so she couldn't come down to the locker room that day. And I'd had enough. I just jumped this kid and just pummeled the shit out of him. And it was kind of funny because the rest of the room was cheering me on because I was the little guy. They're like, and this guy was a dick to everybody. I got 3 days in school suspension. So did he. And when we were sitting in the principal's office, I had no reaction. I'm like, oh, I did what I had to do. And the principal looks at us and goes, well, you're both getting 3 days in school suspension, and you're going to spend it in this room back here behind my office. And I had the nerve to look at him and go, after this, you're really going to put us in a room together for 3 days straight? And he kind of looks at me and goes, no, but you're still going to get 3 days in school suspension. I go, okay. I had one guy about 3 weeks ago. I was sitting in the waiting room at the dialysis center, and he comes in, sits down. He's there about an hour and just happens to look over in his periphery and goes, whoa, when did you get here? I go, I got here 30 minutes before you did. He goes, no, you didn't. I go, yeah, I've been here the whole time. He goes, no. How the fuck did you do that? Lots of practice. Which is funny, when I go through like the Walmart or a shopping center, people will make direct eye contact with me for 3 to 5 seconds and still run into me as if they didn't see me at all and then react to me like they saw a ghost. Because apparently the lower intelligence you are, the more you rely on the potency of the person's um, emotional auric output. And because I don't have that, low intelligence people have a hard time even recognizing my existence. It's really kind of humorous, if not inconvenient from time to time. Hold on, let me catch up on the chat room here. Take that, internet. Oh, right, and I wanted to broach the topic with Victor about because me and him were talking the other night, and he said something about because me and him were both going through a period where we were like reliving our past, and how like you have to make it a point to dig yourself out of that because it's not helpful. And you really can become a distraction, which is why you do it, to distract yourself from what you're going through currently and think back on a more pleasant time. Or even if it wasn't a pleasant time, you've mutated your memories to make it a more pleasant time compared to what you're going through. Oh yeah, it can be. Until you need people to actually listen to you and respect your position. I've found that's very difficult. People are so dependent on emotional resonance that if you speak to them like a machine, they have. What's good, Keith? I see you back there.
I hope you see me back here.
This is my homeboy Keith doing a live stream, chatting with homeboys. I told you that joke, didn't I? About the comment about I wear blackface when I play basketball with the brothers, but it doesn't fool them.
Oh. What's up?
Yeah, he's one of the regulars here. He's pretty cool. But yeah, I've found since this has become who I am that people don't take you as seriously or hold as much weight in your expression or anything because you don't have emotion to back it up. When you talk to people like a machine, they just go, oh, okay, in one ear and out the other. But the same person who has no relationship to anything you've just said can repeat it verbatim with emotion behind it, and all of a sudden they're the smartest person in the room. And I'm left there hanging going, wait, what? I just said that. They're like, no, you didn't. And what they actually mean is they're not talking about the words, they're talking about the emotion I didn't express with it. Exactly. Yes. The internet has, what was that Alex Jones said? The internet has caused us to develop the attention span of goldfish. They think you're a goldfish. Ever since Alex got completely deplatformed, though, every show he's gone more and more for the angle of, it's like interstellar demons are taking over the human race. Which I don't disagree with him. I've, made myself privy to all kinds of weird perspectives like that in my life. What up, Victor? How you doing, brother? Oh, hey, I just brought you up. Your ears must have been burning, and that's why you showed up, because I was talking about you. Ha ha ha. But yeah, I had mentioned the idea of losing yourself in nostalgia or memories to get away from the current reality. And whether or not our memories are really that good, or if we just perceive them as that, as a coping mechanism, and you almost get trapped in it like a vortex and have to fight your way out to get back to reality because it just becomes too comfortable. So comfortable, in fact, that it becomes painful that you cannot remake it. And I've kind of noticed that with some of my memories. They very quickly go from, wow, that's nice, to, oh, it hurts too much because now I miss it. But again, the more I access these memories, the more I use up the stored emotion with them. So, like I said, there are already memories in my head that I'm like, I don't even know that actually happened. Is that just an illusion I created? Hell, there's even a brother that used to be around when I was growing up, and somehow I'm the only one that acknowledges that he was even there. They may remember and just don't care, but yeah, I hear you, Victor. I try to hang on to the good because I can't feel anything anymore. But yeah, there is a lot of dark. In fact, I had like recurring nightmares as a child of like being rolled down hospital hallways with bright lights, like something out of an alien movie, and shit like that. And it wasn't until I got older that I realized those dreams were actually suppressed memories from infancy and toddlerhood. It's like, oh, that's nice. I always had dreams as a kid of being the lone person left after the world's been blown up. Serious abandonment issues. Exactly. The only person that can vouch for your experience is you, right, Victor? If you don't hold on to your memories, who's going to know where you were and what you did? Uh-oh. Yeah, that happened to me last night. I was in the middle of Cave Critters gimmick, and my phone died. All right, if you get on later, we'll catch up with you. Please, someone interject. I cannot speak endlessly. Please, God, somebody say something. Oh, awesome, Victor. Yeah, I'm slowly working on one where I take where I sync Iron Man clips to the John Parr song, St. Elmo's Fire. I don't know. I've been hoping someone else would do that for like years now, but no one has, so I'm working on it. Because it just seems relevant that, Robert Downey Jr. plays Iron Man. The song kind of fits the Iron Man motif. And Robert Downey Jr. played the starring role in that movie in the 80s. And it might not be all Iron Man, it might be just a general Avengers thing too, but so I've been slowly working on that. I actually had to go through and clean out my phone because I had been doing so many videos and racking up so much, so many images and videos to make videos that it bogged down my processor. And like my phone was just like spontaneously spazzing out and shutting off and seizing up, and like, uh-oh. System overload. Need to get rid of some stuff. Should just get a portable hard drive to just download all that stuff onto once I've posted it. Something like that anyway. Oh, on a different note, the more I talk to my brother, the more I realize he is psychologically, emotionally, and spiritually a clone of my mother. That relationship isn't going to work out as well as I like. Oh yeah, they're incredibly cheap, especially for the little bit I have to put on them. Yeah, what was I saying about my brother? Oh, right. He All right, Cave, good talking to you, man. We'll see you around. He he like my mother disavowed all religion, not because they're intelligent people, but if they disavow religion, they can be debaucherous with impunity. And so this has been his life, right? And it's interesting to talk to him because he just like has absolutely no depth. Holy cow, Taryn, that's wild. It's amazing compared to the home computers we had in 1995, right? Oh, please, I'm too antisocial to have too many shout-outs. I'll get scared and climb inside my shell again. Oh my god, that reminds me of that video I'm going to repost of the pet turtle having sex with the croc. And they actually zoom in and you can hear the turtle making graphic noises as he's having his way with the croc. It's hilarious. I think the original post, the person that posted it originally had like 1.5 million views of the video or something. I was talking about disavowing religion to be a debaucherous prick. I don't know where that was supposed to go. I lost my train of thought. My train of thought was derailed and all the passengers died. It was horrible, but, you know. Did the turtle wine and dine the croc? I don't know. It may have. Though I don't know how a turtle would wine and dine a croc. Look at these delicious random leaves I have, sweetheart. Ma'am, is that your music? Yep, that train of thought has come and gone. It's completely wiped out. Oh, right, yeah, because the reason I brought that up is my brother at the same time is very much a zealot for my mother. Have you ever met these people or interacted with these people who are like, Jesus is great and you need to love Jesus and it'll make your life better. You need to turn your sins over to Jesus and love Jesus and let him into your heart and everything will be okay because Jesus is great. Well, this is the Kool-Aid drinking psychosis that my brother throws at me, except replace Jesus with mom. It's really kind of amusing yet disgusting. Like, if you love mom and let her into your life, everything will be okay. You can't hate her. She is the light of all that is good. And like, whoa, dude, lay off the Kool-Aid. Just stop it. Stop it. This not okay. I appreciate that you feel this strongly, but I'm not going to drink the Kool-Aid, so stop bringing it up. Exactly. Yes. Which also kind of rolls into another early life relationship I recognized, because I was the youngest, so I was like 8 years old when my sister started having kids, so my nieces and nephews were more like my younger brothers and sisters. So I was around when they were infants and, you know, being breastfed and changed and whatever. So I was able to have a really analytical kind of perspective of how this stuff went on, right? My brother was breastfed, I was not. That's the primary basis for why we have such differing opinion of her. He emotionally bonded to her. I didn't. But she also breastfed him till he was 4 years old. That's a little long. The point of breastfeeding I noticed with my sisters and other women in my life. Oh yeah, yep. I've noticed with women and breastfeeding, my sisters and other women, is they're more likely to gently wean the daughter. That's right.
Who's working tonight?
In group preference.
Yes,
But
last night.
when you see them breastfeeding their sons,
Yeah, when she worked.
they get this look of guilt, and their eyes are darting around like, okay, that's enough. And they don't wean the boys, they just cut them off cold turkey. And so the infant son doesn't understand. So when he's hungry, he's like, Mom, Mom, Mom. And she will, I've seen it. They go, no, that is bad. You don't touch mommy there. And the personal experience I've had with the women in my life and the ones that nursed their sons and treated them that way has led me to believe there is a kind of shameful sexual gratification women get out of nursing their sons, and this is why they don't wean them, why they so abruptly shut them down, and why they shame them for wanting to be breastfed. That's just my personal analysis from my experience. Exactly. Yes. Yep. You nailed it. Women are much greater perverts than men. It's really kind of disturbing. Which this is why men are attracted. Yep. Which is why men are attracted to breasts in adulthood, because we were so abruptly weaned that we did not get that need fulfilled during infancy, and so we carry it with us the rest of our lives. And anything you don't get fully necessitated during infancy and toddlerhood is something you carry with you the rest of your life. It's what drives you. I personally didn't get the warmth and nurturing of a mother, so I don't want a girlfriend. I don't want a wife. I want a mom. Exactly. Exactly. I also, in the analysis of the reality, it seems like once my mother got my brother to that point, I don't know if she was smart enough to figure it out or if it was just subconscious, but she figured out that because he was 100% healthfully gestated, born, and breastfed for that long, he was this superb physical specimen. So, yep. So because she already had that superb physical specimen of a son, she didn't need another one. So when I came along, just to lock her new husband in is why she had me with him. Said, well, I already have my super male specimen, my other son. I'm going to go ahead and smoke and drink while I'm pregnant with this one. And then when I was born with physical abnormalities, she goes, oh, well, I don't need to keep this one healthy. I've already got the healthy one. I'm going to wreck this one thoroughly and use that as leverage. It's kind of beyond Munchausen's. I mean, that's a part of it. But like, well, and I think I mentioned this when you were around too about, when you get a check for $800 and the light company calls them, they're like, well, we have a sick child. We haven't been working. We can't pay the light bill. Okay. Oh, hey, we got this money. Let's go to the casino. So, So I think part of the choices she made for me was because my brother already fulfilled some aspect of what she psychologically needed. Melody Beatty. Who's that broad?
It don't matter.
I have never heard of her. I'll have to look her up.
Something better than nothing. Fast money is trouble. Fast money is trouble.
Oh, and coincidentally, I just got a picture from my brother of my uncle, who happens to be my mom's half brother. And in the picture, he's like 35, so about the age I am. We look extraordinarily similar. I really don't look anything like my own father. That would explain my high intelligence, my facial and cranial structure, my innate need to be a masculine, commanding male, and why I always felt like his three sons were more family than my own siblings.
I don't know whether she gave me Monday off, but I can have a rest day, you know, or she gave me.
Wow, dude, I mean, some of the, the lower intelligence or higher emotion people need stuff like that for structure, like babysit them and give them a place to belong and feel like other people get them. Some of those things are just such a scam. And I like how when people get into those 12-step programs, they become all high and mighty. It's like, I'm in a 12-step program, and now I know all the bad things you're doing, too. Like, what? What is wrong with you? Like that's another thing a lot of my family did. A great deal of my family members went to either Alcoholics Anonymous or like alcohol treatment centers. But I can't stand alcohol. Even when I was healthy and could consume it, it was like, really? This? What? No. I don't understand why people like to drink alcohol. I mean, from an external aspect, I can, but I never personally had that experience with it. It tastes like garbage, and it doesn't facilitate any sensations that I go, hey, this is fun. But I don't like pot either. But again, from my observation of people who smoke pot, they say it clears their mind. I think the pot and the alcohol, in some cases, in certain people, it has an effect where it quiets their emotions so they're not as reactive and can think a little more clearly, especially the pot, maybe not the alcohol. And I think that's part of why certain people smoke pot, because they're very reactive, high emotion people, and the pot weakens that aspect of who they are, allowing their calm and reason and sensibility to come through.
And if you cut my hair, this time my hair's like right here again. I just cut it back up here.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. The alcoholics have a very different reality than the people with narcotic problems. It's almost amusing in kind of a sick way. Every time the man who raised me gets 2 or more beers in him, he starts crying. And what, pray tell, does he cry about? I was an only son, and I had to work in the field and on the machines all the time, and I never got to spend time in the house like my sister. Nobody loved me. They didn't help me with my homework. Really? So you grew up on a farm being taught to do all this man shit? And you spent your life lamenting that knowledge you were given and learning it? Really? Wow. Though, all things considered, I have a lot of data backing up the notion that my mother's half brother is actually my father, which is probably why another reason family goes out of their way to strip me of my humanity. Oh, probably. From what I knew of my grandfather, he was a real hard ass, which is kind of funny. I realized many years ago, like 25 years ago, probably, like 25 years ago when I was just hitting my teen years, I had noticed that families alternate. They're cyclical. Like Generation A is a bunch of conservative hardasses. Generation B is liberal and all about the feelings. Generation C is conservative hardasses, and so on. You know, there's a general pattern to it where it skips. And so I realized that even that young that I was going to be a lot more like my grandfather. And I've more than once as an adult just like buried my father's like, oh my God, stop being a pussy. But yeah, sort of. It's not in concrete, but you can kind of see it if you observe it. But I also realized as a child that if I had kids, my boys would turn out to be pussies like my own father. Like, wow, so that's what I have to look forward to? Oh, well, it's like, well, you know, I just got to stick around long enough till they have kids, and then I can be an influence on them. Be like, you know what? It's okay. You don't have to be a pussy like your dad. Grandpa's here. You can be a hard ass like him. But I also realized at a very young age that because of the patterns my health would take for the rest of my life, I would not be able to be a consistent or stable, healthy father for my kids. So by the time I was 17, I resided in the condition that I would never be able to have children. And I never have. So, you know, there's that. So yeah, I remember it struck me really solidly as when I was like 14 and read that line from Socrates, I believe they say it is, where he says, and how does he say that? And an uninvestigated life is not one worth living, something like that. XX sperm swim faster because they have one extra leg. Oh yeah, there used to be a girl, a female to male tranny that worked as a security guard at the Target facility. Oh Jesus, she was a mess. And I'd mess with her, right? Because she'd insist that she was a boy, but I'd always treat her as a girl. And one day she's like, you can't boss me around. I go, yes, I can. She goes, says who? I go, says my Y chromosome. And she used to meet me at my truck once in a while when she'd see me pulling in. And I'd roll down my window. And I just happened to have like some individually wrapped candy at the time. And I stuck my hand out with the candy in and I go, well, hello, little girl. Would you like some candy? To which she couldn't help but smile and laugh. And she goes, I hate you so much. I go, I know you do. But between you and me, the good candy's in the back of the truck. And what was it? We were sitting on the bench outside Whole Foods one night, waiting for her shift to close, and she's sitting there shivering, right? And I ignore her, waiting for her to say something. Finally, I turn to her, I go, are you cold? She goes, no. I go, I can see you shivering. Come on over here, we'll cuddle and share our body warmth. And she goes, I would, but people might see us and that'd be weird. I go, oh, don't worry. You can be Hot Lips. I'll be Hawkeye. It'll be fine. So then she started inviting me into her office on cold nights like that, where there's no windows, no audio recording, nothing. And one night, sitting in there talking, right, she turns to me. Now, and she's got her head shaved, and she's put on a little weight because she's taking testosterone, but otherwise she's all girl, right? We're sitting in her office, and she goes, this room is soundproof. No one could hear if you had sex. I look at her, I go, what? Like, and it just made me think of Jason Mewes from Jay and Silent Bob, who said, dude, every lesbian's just one good dicking away from going straight. It did, yes. Though that makeout scene with them when they were leaving the camp on the series finale was pretty good. So yeah, she was fun to mess with. I would not acquiesce on her wanting to be a dude. Like, no, you're not. You're a girl. Well, oh, and it was. What else? Oh, and then there was a girl, right? The Whole Foods at that facility had a cheese and wine bar where they made fresh food for you. And I was sitting back there watching the game one night, and one of the girls with baby rabies, was trying to snag me with her baby rabies. She was attracted to me because she wanted a kid. Apparently they can smell brains, among other things. And so I'm sitting there watching the game, and she goes, God, I'm bored. I've finished all my work for the night. You need to make me a sandwich. And she kind of laughs, and I look at her and go, oh, I thought you were joking. I said, no, I'm hungry. Make me a sandwich. And I swear to God, dude, as soon as I said that, she perked up, rolled her shoulders back, puffed her chest out, smiled big, her eyes glistened, and she went and made me food. Like, wow, it really is that easy, isn't it? Oh, once you get past the confusion that hormones create, it really is a lot easier. Well, yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed his character because what's that you said again? Let me look. Yeah, his skill and endurance was unparalleled because he was the most intelligent, complex individual there. Intelligent and complex. You can't have that kind of level of focus, endurance, and skill without having a great deal of intellectual and personal complexity. Simple people don't have those capacities. I always thought Colonel Potter, I always liked him better. I mean, I know Henry Blake was kind of a mechanism for comic relief, but I liked the seriousness that Potter brought to the show. Oh yeah, I still love that show. Like, it was so well done. I'll still watch it, binge watch it. It just, of course, it was kind of it was also at a period way before all our technology where it was so much more human and real that the actors actually had to convey that reality. Oh yeah, he was awesome. It's like, okay, I understand how the rest of y'all are around here, but I'm here to make sure shit goes down the way it's supposed to. Oh yeah, yep. And then like eventually being around them for so long, that kind of broke him down, and he started playing poker with them, and he was like, what is it? Radar's surrogate father. Oh yeah, that was really cool. The pet horse that they got him. It was like his birthday, and he was missing home and always talking about the horses he had back home, and they got him that horse. And he rode that around like an old stalwart, like out of some, Civil War barracks, or it's like riding around. I'm the CEO, and you're gonna listen. Oh yeah, he was awesome. I liked him. Maybe because I didn't have the tough but fair father figure, so Colonel Potter was like, oh hey, I like this. This makes me comfortable. Oh, there was some other thought I was running around my head earlier about father figures and stuff. Oh, right. Oh, yeah, I remember that. Yep. And whenever he went to their the bar on their base, he always ordered the grape knee high. I always thought knee high was just code word for soda, but it turns out there's actually a brand of soda called Knee High, NE-HI. I don't know, maybe they made that up after the MASH show, or maybe it existed before. I don't know. And what was it? Hawkeye and BJ and Trapper always trying to teach Radar how to be a man. Um, but yeah, like the neighbors we live next to. Oh my God, yes, always trying to get the Section 8 to get out of the military. He'd try to be as absolutely crazy as he could be, and Potter's like, okay, you're crazy. Now do your job. In fact, I think at like one point, Klinger like pushed the issue of trying to present himself as a woman in a dress and his hair done up, and Potter's like, yes, Klinger, you make a very handsome woman, but I need this paperwork taken care of. It may have been, I don't know. But yeah, the neighbor next door was like a 6'3", 250-pound heavy machine gunner from Nam, and his wife was like 5 foot, 90 pounds, right? They had 3 sons. I spent a lot of time over there because I didn't have any masculinity in my family. I had my psychotic mother, my pussy father, and my gay brother, and 2 sisters. By the time I got around to be old enough to develop relationships with them. So there was an extreme lack of masculinity in my home. So I'd always go to the neighbors where he had him, his 3 sons, and his utterly submissive tiny wife, right? I'm glad I had that. I really am. But I remember at like 8 years old, I turned to my mother when she came over to get me and take me home for the night, right? And I looked at her and I asked her, I go, Mom? She goes, yeah. I go, if you had sex with someone like their dad, I probably wouldn't have been born broken, huh? Like in my 8-year-old brain, I formulated that if my mother had mated with a hyper-masculine male, that I wouldn't have been gestated improperly. And then I think around that same age, she, she picked me up from the swimming pool. That was the thing in the summer, to get your parents to take you to the next town over to go be at the pool all day. And there was a retarded kid my age in my grade that's a whole nother story. He was there at the swimming pool. Yep. And so I noticed, right, that the other kids were ruthlessly picking on this retarded kid and laughing at him and mocking him. But he didn't know they were. He thought they were enjoying his company. So he just fed into it. He was having the time of his life, and they were being ruthless, right? And I'm sitting there watching this, and I asked my mom when she picks me up. I go, hey, Mom, if I was going to be born broken, why couldn't I be born like him? She goes, don't you say that. I go, no, seriously, he's going to spend his whole life never knowing that people are treating him like shit. He'll be 35 playing with Batman toys and watching cartoons and not know anything's wrong. But every minute of every day, I have to know people are treating me poorly and be aware of their perception of me. And that sucks. She's like, oh, don't you say that. Oh, you're the honeymoon baby, huh? The one they shot out as soon as they made it to the motel room, huh? Oh, baby, give it to me, raw dog. Give it to me now. Yeah, I would imagine if, the parents were in a drunken stupor when they made you, that could have some effect on your genetic proclivity towards alcoholism or, consumption of alcohol. Yeah, that was interesting growing up because every year, because of the small town I was in, I was not physically healthy. This kid was not mentally capable. Rented a van instead of a girl. I didn't know you could rent girls. But is that really a worthwhile rental? I mean, who wants to rent? Who wants to rent a car when it can just up and wander off and refuse to work? That doesn't seem like a good rental to me. Oh, but yeah, Zangotti was talking about the internet as far as legal rights. Like the internet is supposed to be a free speech zone. Well, I mean, that's kind of something I figured out a long time ago too, is, oh, and I just happened to think of a quote from Agent Smith. God, I love the Matrix series. Apparently free, but the truth is, we're not free. He got a little mad because he couldn't rent some love, huh?
Where the baby came from?
Oh, hold on. Let me see here. Yeah, but damn it, I lost my train of thought again. But yeah, that last live stream I did, I went to copy it, right, and cut it up into segments and re-upload it. But after I downloaded it, I couldn't do anything with it because my phone's hard drive was so full. Oh my God, awesome. So I ended up accidentally deleting the live stream from my YouTube before I could re-upload it, so I completely lost it. I think I have like 35 minutes of audio from it. So that kind of sucks. So if I'm rehashing things I spoke of in that last one, that's why. Did you see Hammerhand talking about why you shouldn't shave? Talking about how he was... Wow. Well, when someone calls you an incel, you can kind of look at them and go, well, for me to not be an incel, I'll have to take after Dahmer. Then, you'll get a really weird look on your face, and you're like, well, but let's be honest. They're filthy, retarded, grotesque, awful women that are, living on the street corner and haven't bathed in months. And if you're really that hard up, take her home, fumigate her, boom, you're not an incel anymore. You're getting some. So on some level, I think certain incels are just doing it to themselves. And some guys just don't understand the value system of such sexual marketplace. So, you're like the awkward nerd trying to attract Chad level women. Well, no, dude, you got to know what you represent to them. As soon as you figure that out, you'll find it's a lot easier to attract them. Like Bezos with his pecker picture. It's like, no, dude, women don't want the Bezos for his appendages. They want him for his money. You Instagram a wad of hundreds, they'll be lining up. So let me go back over this. A guy was trying to get on Backpage to get some lovin'. Backpage was shut down, so he rented a van instead of a woman. Whether it was on purpose or by accident, you've not specified. Apparently, the people who knew him called him an incel and mocked him. Oh yeah, sometimes life just, deals you one of those hands where you got to know when to fold them. You know what I mean? Damn you, Kenny Rogers. That's one of those songs I remember from my childhood. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, sometimes. That reminds me of what I heard Glenn Beck, you know who he is. One morning, it was around Christmas, and he was talking about how hard life is for certain people who are born with disabilities. And he happened to be talking about Down syndrome people and how heartwarming this documentary was he saw of Down syndrome people leading their own lives. And he had the nerve to say that as heartbreaking as it is to see what these people go through, that God gives us those people so that we can gaze upon them and grasp how good we actually have it. Oh my God, dude. I lit up that phone so hard trying to get in to blow him out of the water. It's like, you sick fuck. You're honestly sitting there saying, I don't have the self-awareness to deem my life, happy and joyful. I need people in really, really shitty, horrible situations around me to make me go, oh, hey, I'm not doing so bad. That's like evil, dude. Like, I don't care what kind of Jesus thumper you are. Yeah, that's understandable. Or maybe it was they are. Dude, there was a Down syndrome girl that used to work at the McDonald's, Dude, I'd go in the mornings in there when she was working, just because she was always so happy and bubbly. And by the time I left there talking to her and interacting with her, I had absorbed some of her positive energy. It was better than church. Almost considered dating her because she wasn't a crazy, malicious, soul-sucking bitch like every other woman. And as the great monkey TFM said, I hear they're down for anything. No, Jerry Springer's just as bad. Encouraging trashy people to be trashy people. Oh, I grew up with those people. It was... Oh. Everybody in the trailer park is related in one way or the other. It's one of those cases, you know, where it's like, hey, you know what? It's like the zoo. I'll stay away from the lion and watch him. I don't want to be in the cage with him. Wow, I'm almost out of tea. Bummer. Well, that's all right. I scored a couple free ones already, so no big deal. Right? My parents' generation, my mother, her brothers and sisters, their spouses, my father, his spouses, was that screwed up. Some mishaps were had when they were in their 20s and 30s. Strangely enough, I've gotten in touch with my oldest sister, who's not genetically my sister at all. She's the one my father's first wife had with her Chad. And I've always found that interesting, that her and her full-blood brother that I have no genetic or DNA relationship to, my life took a similar path to his, and my intangible development took a similar path to hers. Weird. I don't figure that one out. I was kind of waiting for Victor to come back. I don't know. I'll just let this ride and cut it up later. It'll be fine. And if you bail, I'll just keep rambling incoherently until something falls out of the sky. Which doesn't happen much around here because we have the Air Force Base on the premises. So, you know, they're, what is it? MacDill Air Force Base is the head of Middle Eastern operations and extraterrestrial operations. Figure that one out. My health? Let's see. My kidneys haven't functioned in 16 years. Because of that, my body has not been able to maintain itself properly. Occasionally, I get some luck with various forms of nutrition, but nothing like surgically or medically. Like everything, I spend a lot of my time going behind the doctors and the surgeons and the modern medicine operations, double checking what the hell they're doing, why they're doing it, and what it's doing to my body and compensating for it. Because of said condition, right? Or, you know, MacDill will just open a black hole to swallow it so it doesn't impact anything. But yeah, as far as like, yeah, my health, because of the prednisone that was given to me as a child, it destroyed my ability to develop the physiological resilience and regeneration properties that a standard male would have. So I don't heal as quickly or as thoroughly. And being on dialysis for all these years has left my body in a state of, chemical mismanagement. So there have been flaws that have crept up because of that. And because the prednisone partially disintegrated both my hip joints as a child, I've always had scoliosis. Well, you combine all that with living in a truck, not getting good sleep, being on dialysis all these years, and only eating once a day because my digestive tract has almost completely shut down because of my lack of sleep and ability to regenerate. Exactly. So all that combined, over the years of living on my motorcycle and in my truck, yeah, except the bad kind of roids, not the anabolic that build everything, the catabolic that destroy everything. Exactly. I'll get into that. So at this point, my pelvis is tilted forward and to the left, so I can't stand up straight. So I have to use a walker all the time. Like, if I'm able to straighten out from heel to tip of my crown, I'm like 5'8", and I think I've maxed out in the last 5 years at like 135 pounds. About all I have left is from here up. I at this point, I'm kind of just a brain in a jar. Yeah, so back to that thing, right? So by 2.5 years old, right, they had fixed all the things that my mother's gestation screwed up. And I was a healthy child. You see me in the picture when I'm 3 years old. I'm a relatively healthy, normal child, other than, having a permascowl on my face that coincidentally I still have. I put that in my nutshell video. It's kind of creepy how I synced it up if you're into something like that. So by 3 years old, if nothing else had happened, I would have been fine, relatively fine. I could have developed probably 80% of my potential development, right? Could have been 80% normal developmentally. But somewhere between 3 and 3.5 years old, they decided to vaccinate me. This is a problem. Why? Because I had damaged kidneys that were still healing and subsequently damaged adrenal glands because they sit on top of the kidneys that were still healing. Vaccines take pathogens and heavy metals and bypass 80%, 75 to 80% of the immune system, which is all the inputs, the ears, the nose, the mouth, the skin, that stops things from getting in. So by the time it gets inside you, it's so diminished that the rest of the body only needs to do like 25% of the work. So what happens when you bombard that 25% with 100% of the problem via vaccination? There are adverse reactions. What happens when you triple vaccinate a child that has kidneys and adrenal glands working at 60% their normal health? That can cause some serious problems. What did it do to me? My body overreacted by inducing a condition called juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, wherein over the next 11 years, my immune system systematically attacked every pair of joints in my body, starting at the ankles and going up. In fact, you can damn near log it on a timeline, like into my ankles, then it affected my knees, then my hips, then my hands, then my elbows, then my shoulders, then my neck, and then nothing else. So they put me, because that was a hyperactive immune response, they put me on catabolic steroids to shut down my immune system. It did not do this. Exactly. That's a whole nother topic. And this can spin out of control very quickly in too many different directions. So I'm going to try to stay focused. So they put me to, oh yeah, yep. Well, that's why they put the kids on prednisone for allergies, to fry their brains. Every time I hear of a woman putting her kid on prednisone for allergies, it's like, you bitch, just clean the house more. Do you have any idea what you're doing to that kid's brain and his development? So here's what it did to me. So they put me on the prednisone to diminish my immune response. It does not do that. The juvenile rheumatoid arthritis runs its course anyway. Now, realistically, there is no way to set up a control to decide whether or not the prednisone had any effect. There is no way to go back, relive the circumstances exactly, but take away the prednisone and see if it changes the circumstances. There's really no way to test that. So at this point, just let it hang. So they gave me this prednisone. What does the JRA do? It engorges the joint with synovial fluid, creating and pinching off blood flow and nerve activity to the joint while it's swollen. Oh, this would happen just about every night because, I'd be walking around and being a person during the day as much as I could until it hurt too much, and then I'd end up with a fever at night. My joints swell up huge, and so, of course, that's going to hinder development of my joints. But then the prednisone, right? Dude, I have such a visceral, guttural hatred for modern medicine, you have no idea. It gets better. So what does the prednisone do? It induces a catabolic effect in my system to try to hinder the swelling. But the catabolic effect goes for the weakest, most easy aspects of the biology first. So guess what it did? I went to specialists sometimes as many as 6 times a year during this period, right? And they would ultrasound my kidneys to see how they were doing. And they would do x-rays of my entire skeleton. Kind of like Wolverine. But, and every time we'd see those specialists, they'd tell my mother the same thing. The prednisone is eating away at his hip joints. It's diminishing his bone mass. And it's causing one kidney to atrophy and the other one not to develop. See, this is where the problem comes in. Doctors can only prescribe drugs. Someone else has to administer them. So at that point, the responsibility is laying completely at the feet of my mother, who continued feeding me that drug, aside from the doctors telling her sometimes as much as 6 times a year, this drug is destroying his bones and disintegrating his kidneys. By the time I was 12 years old, they all had a good laugh. Oh, look, your one kidney doesn't show up on ultrasound anymore. And, oh, hey, look, each one of your hips is about 1/3 gone. Oh, thanks for that. The prednisone permanently reprogrammed aspects of my physiology. I cannot build muscle to save my life because of the prednisone. When my adrenaline would spike, I'd go straight to adrenaline exhaustion. I wouldn't have the peak adrenaline aspect. I cannot, because of the way the prednisone inhibits use of the protein, my body, even being off prednisone for like 20 years now, cannot break down protein. I have to specifically take amino acids that facilitate that. I also have to take amino acids to get my anabolic factor to subnormal. which argues the point. Once they took me off the prednisone at 12 years old, if they'd put me on anabolic supplements, it would have reprogrammed my biology and I could have come out relatively normal. Instead, they just put me on growth hormone to make my bones longer and then gave me a kidney transplant. Yep. And then gave me a kidney transplant. Why? Oh, because your native kidney's not growing fast enough. Not, hey, we're going to give you stuff to facilitate your anabolic factor so your body can heal and develop properly. So, at 15, I was given a kidney transplant. Guess who I got the kidney from? You're going to enjoy this. It was one of my mother's kidneys. Here's why that's a problem. Her kidney has different genetics and different DNA than my body. Her kidney is built on the premise of managing the biology of a BPD woman. You put a BPD woman's kidney that runs on those blueprints into a 15-year-old male's body, what's that going to do? That kidney took over management of my body. I have a male body. At that point, I have a male body in puberty being managed by a bipolar woman's kidney. This is why I have a diminutive stature. Oh, hell yes, dude. Like I said, laser, my life as a science experiment. So a woman's kidney is managing my body through puberty that's already adrenally and hormonally hindered. So guess what? Most fully developed women have broader shoulders than I do. That again added to the fact that I can't build muscle like a man, that I can't have an adrenal response like a man, that I can't heal and regenerate and have the resiliency of a man. So yeah, the only thing I really, I've heard them both, bipolar disorder and borderline personality disorder, and they're both described as BPD. I suppose she was more borderline personality than bipolar. So that also, right? So an estrogen-based organ is managing my testosterone-based physiology, which also altered my brain chemistry, where I had bouts of, manic depression, where most of the time I went on 4 hours sleep and was going 9,000 miles an hour all the time. But then I'd have periods where I'd just cry all day. Like, I don't know, once every 6 months, I'd just have a day where I fucking cried all the time. Never stopped for like an entire day. And then all that mutation that was caused in my first 12 years of life spazzed out my amygdala and hippocampus. Okay. Well, then she was borderline personality and not bipolar. Yeah, very malicious and sadistic individual. So the prednisone and the relentless emotional and physiological abuse I went through as an infant, toddler, and child caused my amygdala, by the time I was 11 years old, amygdala and hippocampus over here, to generate 6 times the normal electricity of a healthy one. This had interesting ramifications. It subsequently enhanced my intelligence, but it also created a failsafe, a very intriguing failsafe. When I would take on too much negative energy, too much stress, do you know that spot in your chest that like just feels heavy when you're just way too stressed out and depressed and shit, and then it feels lighter than air when you feel really good? You know that part of the chest I'm talking about? The solar plexus, supposedly where the soul resides. That's why it's called that. Well, when I would take on enough negative energy for that to feel heavy, yep, when I would take on enough negative energy for that to feel heavy, my amygdala and hippocampus would send a power surge through my system. And I would feel it coming on. I would have a good 30 seconds to a minute where I would feel the what they call the aura, where all of a sudden I just feel this calm throughout my entire body. And the weight being lifted out of that part of my chest, and then I'd black out. I'd dry heave, then fall asleep for like 4 or 5 hours, and wake up feeling completely reborn. Quite literally, what the abuse I went through as an infant, toddler, and child, in all its forms, created a failsafe for coping with negative energy that allowed me to live in almost a superhuman state where as soon as I took on too much, I'd just go to a quiet room, have a little spell, sleep it off, wake up feeling like Superman. Well, my mother insisted I be diagnosed with epilepsy, even though, I had it under control. Lots of times as a teenager, I'd be driving, I'd go, oh, I'd pull off the side of the road, shut the car off, throw the keys on the other side, lock all the doors, have my little spell, wake up a couple hours later, drive home, no problem. Okay? This did not happen in public. But because it turned me into the hyper-resilient individual it did, my mother during that time in my life regularly greeted me with the words, "Why do you make me hate you?" And when that spiritual resiliency allowed me to stop her from winning her sociopathic games, she started Baker acting me and lying, saying I was trying to assault her. Until at 25 years old, she got her way and they removed that. Not to the point that I had normal amygdala or hippocampus activity, but to the point I had almost none. Like, I'm down to like probably top out at 5% normal activity. So that was a really, really massive blow to me that I never came back from. Yes, I am absolutely a science experiment. And it's very clear to me that modern medicine is not the way to go. But good news, because they experimented on me with all that shit, they know how to better administer it to other people so you don't have to suffer as much when you use it. Which is why I made the comment about IG Farben financing the Nazi prison camps to experiment on people. But, and so here I am. Whatever's left of me. On a lighter note, though, because of, everything, I found out at a very young age that my only emotional support system I had was music. So, I'm very apprehensive about, listening to music with other people, especially if it's a song that means something to me. If it, comes on the radio and there's multiple people there and they're like, yeah, this is a great song, I'm like, you know what, I'm leaving. Because, it's too personal an experience to share with other people. I would imagine that brain abnormality is part of why I so easily had those episodes of astral projection, because I had learned to control it. Well, were what weapons or chemicals? Oh, the Nazi death camps are how they developed anesthesia, painkillers, and the surgical procedures that were not expanded upon until the late 80s Oh, that's where they develop psychotropic drugs too. The infancy of them. Oh yeah, IG Farben was pharmaceuticals. They they came over during Project Blue Book and changed their name to Bayer, the aspirin company. Doctors are just lackeys that are paid to administer the technology and pharmaceuticals that the actual scientists create. You go, okay, hey, we have this new stuff and we figured out in the lab that it works this way. We need you to administer it to your patients and then give us access to their records so we can see how it turns out. And people who are on state medical insurance, like, yep, and people who are on state-sanctioned medical insurance, like Medicare and Medicaid, remember, the Medicare and Medicaid was created shortly after World War II. Gee, why did that happen? Guess what? All the adults and children that are put on those state-sanctioned Medicare and Medicaid, because those are government-sanctioned, you're treated as state property. When you go in and you're like, I'm paying with Medicare and Medicaid, and you get and those people and those children that pay with those are the first to be experimented on and troubleshot on, and we're like, oh yeah, well, we haven't tried this yet. Oh yeah, yep. So yeah, dude. So because I use Medicare, Medicaid, and TRICARE to pay for things, they just look at me and go, oh, you're a poor loser. And then the dollar signs flash in their eyes. And nothing I say to them registers. They just go, yeah. Well, we're going to do this anyway. So yeah, we already have socialized medicine through Medicare and Medicaid. And that also terrifies me. The number of single mothers who, because they're single mothers, get Medicare and Medicaid for their children. That means the doctors they're taking their children to are actually using their children as fodder. Yeah, TRICARE is veterans. I get that through my father. No. That doesn't make him honorable. He was in the National Guard. And he will tell you point blank, he joined the National Guard so he wouldn't have to go to Nam. On the other hand, the uncle I was talking about earlier, that I resemble, he spent 3 tours in Nam. And he came out of Nam and started working for a bank in the Midwest as their primary programmer in like 82. And by and he's been with that company ever since. He stayed with them like 35 years. In the early 80s, he was already, doing their basic programming for him. By 1990, they built him an office in his own house. Oh yeah, TRICARE sucks. That he had an office built in his own home because he was so obnoxious at work, no one could take being around him, kind of like Hawkeye. So in his office, he'd just take random calls, service calls, and troubleshoot them from binary up without any reference in front of him. He'd just walk around his house all day taking these calls. And they sent him all the hardest calls. The dude's a freaking genius and like the most like intelligent, the combination of intelligent and masculine that I've ever seen. Like he'll discuss physics with you while you're watching a football game. Again, I have way too many similarities with this uncle. So yeah, right now I have 3 insurances, Medicare, Medicaid, and TRICARE. and I still can't get good care because they see that and they go, oh, a poor tool for scrap. All right. So there's that too. In fact, I had to argue with one of the new staff members at the dialysis center yesterday because I was explaining to her the difference between a couple different drugs. The two of the drugs they give me are actually augmented vitamin D. Like one has 2 extra carbon and 1 extra oxygen atom, and the other one has an extra oxygen atom. And she's like, oh my God. I go, well, yeah. And she was giving me the IV vitamin D. I said, well, I know that because I take a little vitamin D every day anyway to, help things out. She goes, you shouldn't do that. And I looked at her, I go, don't you ever question me again. Don't you ever. I have an IQ of 125. I study physics, quantum physics, biology, physiology in my spare time. I have more science knowledge in the tip of my pinky than you will have in 40 lifetimes. And I have more than all these doctors combined that come here. Don't you ever question me again. And she kind of stepped back and looked at me appalled, but you know what? She's never going to tell me how I should be doing something. And sometimes that's what it takes. And the best my family can ever do as far as like being an advocate for me in medical situations is to listen to the doctor and then come to me and go, well, we can't help you. You just have to do what the doctor tells you and they'll let you go. Yep. Have you ever watched the guy Alan Roberts? He has his Alan Roberts channel and his Every Damn Day fitness channel. Well, check him out when you're done here, because considering what I told you about how a kidney transplant augments the biology, dude, I would love to get one of his kidneys. Are you fucking kidding me, dude? Be a goddamn super beast. It'd be awesome. Having his kidney in me might actually reprogram it and undo some of the demalification that I've been put through. Well, I've been here 2 hours. Victor stopped in to say hi before his phone died. I guess he got sidetracked. Yeah, check him out when we get at some point. In fact, he's one of my subscriptions, so you can look him up there too. What time is it? Damn it, there's no clock here. I don't know what time it is. Of course, none of us really do we? Time is a false construct. But you know what? I think I'm good. I think I got plenty of material out. Alan, A-L-A-N, Roberts, R-O-B-E-R-T-S. Awesome. Hockey games at 7:30. They close here at 9. Kinda. I will say this. I've noticed improvements in my health since I cut back 85% of the caffeine, 85% meat, about that much of the sugar, that much aspartame. And my primary diet now is decaf tea and apples. It's helping so far. There's still some modifications I need to make to get everything operating. No problem. And I will say this remaining thing about my health. The damage I received from my hips by the time I was 12 years old. That was, bad enough, but I could still stand up straight and be active and be a normal person because they were at least level. But because of the way non-working kidneys affect the metast the way the bones metastasize and use the calcium and phosphorus, that has over the past couple of years, with the diminished resiliency, not getting good sleep, and living on a motorcycle and in a van and shit. Last time I got an X-ray, one of my hips is completely gone. So instead of my pelvis sitting level, it sits cocked forward and hard to the left, so I can't stand up straight anymore. Now I could get hip replacements, however, there's a problem with that. They're artificial. Now what they do is first, the fact that I have a degenerative condition. No, I don't read for fun. I watch YouTube videos, listen to music, talk to you guys, screw with the nurses at dialysis, listen to the hockey game, watch the hockey game. I do, but my capacity to really thoroughly enjoy something isn't quite there as it once was. But occasionally, it. Let me go back to what I was saying. If they were to replace my hips, I already have a severe bone degenerative condition. If that's not fixed, the hip replacements are just going to cause more damage to my bones and exacerbate the condition. 2, when you put the artificial hips in, oh, nice. I will look that up. Thank you. When it's like, it's a spike with a knob on the end of it. They drive it into the bone marrow, and the knob at the end is the hip joint. But the cartilage doesn't last very long because the cartilage needs the bone to nourish it and grow from, the way a plant needs the soil. So when you put an artificial joint in, there's no bone to nourish the cartilage, so the cartilage eventually deteriorates, and that means there's nothing to hold the joint in place. So if you're walking along with a hip replacement and you sneeze good and hard, it'll pop out of socket and you're effed. So as far as hip replacements, no dice. If I got the necessary regenerative technology to actually regenerate my hip joints and some necessary treatments to roll back the degenerative condition, that would be the way to go. Again, Rife machine and Van de Graaff generators. Simple start. Exactly. Yep. So, like I said, this body is my soul is very detached from this body. It's a machine that isn't worth keeping running anymore. It's like, you know what? When can I? Where's the jaws of life to pull me out of this car wreck so I can, get some good rest and go get a new car? But I know how fucked up my reality is and how dark and how awful it can get, so I just keep it locked up inside and try to hide it, and only to interact with people when I'm in a good mood and can joke and make them laugh and be light of condition, light of spirit. But I can't thank you enough, Karen, for sitting and listening and let me get this all out. I really can't express how much I appreciate that and how much it really just helps me get some stuff off my chest and feel better. Thank you. Well, you're too late, Victor. I've waited long enough. I think I'm good to go. Order me some more tea and download this. Dear God, 2 minutes, 15 seconds. I might not have room on my phone. It might take 30 minutes to even load it to YouTube. But again, thank you, sir. I appreciate your company. I'll let you go, bro. Have a good night.